Hey guys, I don't know what I was doing, but I want to tell more Bullshido stories because ever since I told that one, the stuff I saw on Chinese television, I got more. Spent a few years in China, man. You get some of these stories. So let's talk about them. First story. So I have a distant uncle. I don't know, he's maybe a second or third uncle, just very distant uncle. And he did Kung Fu. So he would always get into fights because Kung Fu gave him confidence, right? But how much did that Kung Fu really help him in fights versus just the confidence, etc.? One time, such a crazy story. I actually told the story before, but I never told my audience before that he was a self-taught Kung Fu master. Now, that would have made it more funny. But he was helping my uncle, so my uncle, my mom's brother, helping my uncle with his business. My uncle used to run a construction business in China. So one time, a bunch of people, they were gangsters. These gangsters were trying to maybe lowball my uncle on a project, and my uncle's very nice. He was going to just tell the gangsters, it's okay, you guys can go somewhere else. But my distant uncle, the Kung Fu master uncle, decided, no, I gotta be blunt with them. I gotta tell them, mess with us. So I don't know where the conversation went, but somehow a fight was about to start. And on one side was my uncle and my distant uncle, my Kung Fu master uncle. And on the other side were 7 or 8 gangsters. And so even having the Kung Fu master type of confidence, my Kung Fu master uncle realized that it's probably not a good idea. So, because they work in a construction place, just by the drawer there was an axe. So, my Kung Fu uncle picks up the axe and he says, okay, you guys want to fight, man? Come. So, these gangsters, they outnumber their opponents, but they also see that this guy has an axe. So back then, people didn't have cell phones, so I'm pretty sure it's like by pager or something. But so they call in backup, and suddenly there's like 9-10 gangsters in my uncle's business about to destroy the business. And my uncle's such a nice guy. He's behind my Kung Fu master uncle, just shaking, really scared. So you guys ask, how did this situation get resolved? No, heads didn't fly. What happened was the same way that China respects Kung Fu masters because they're old. Right? China has this kind of thing where you just respect the old, right? The old people can be complete a-holes. They can be complete frauds. They can be pretending to be old. I mean, they could be a lot of things. They could be very nuanced. But in China, by default, you give old people respect. So what happened was, and this is the only reason I know this story, my grandmother, because my uncle, my mom's brother, my uncle was her only son. So my grandmother cared a lot about my uncle. So my grandmother was checking up on my uncle. My grandmother would visit my uncle a lot. So she goes to visit, and lo and behold, there's 10 gangsters about to start a fight with my uncle and my Kung Fu master uncle. So my grandmother, this is just, I don't even think it's her being brave. It's just her being motherly. She doesn't want her only son getting killed in a gang turf war or whatever. So she can't really walk in because it's already crowded with gangsters, but she's just shouting at them. She's like, hey, yo, stop this. You guys are being stupid. Stop this. And then all the gangsters turn and they look at my grandmother. And one of the gangsters, probably one of the leaders of the group, was like, you know what? Old grandma says to stop. I think we should stop. All right. And then they go. And when I first told the story to audiences on another channel, some of the audiences said it was actually good. It wasn't that my grandmother scared them or that they really respected an old person, an elder, or my grandma. What happened is, if there actually were a fight between my uncle probably couldn't take on any of them, but my Kung Fu master uncle with the axe would probably take 1 or 2 of them down before they both got jumped, right? So I think the gangsters, thinking logically, strategically, realized, okay, this is going to be a Pyrrhic victory. What a Pyrrhic victory means is that it's a victory, but it's going to cost us a lot. In fact, we're probably not going to recover from it. So they realized, okay, we need something to be able to kind of call this off. And, Chinese society is a lot about image. In Chinese, it's called mianzi. So they needed to back off without losing face, without losing mianzi. Because if they backed off, it would be like, oh, these two little nobodies took on this gang and won, right? Their street cred would be gone. So by my grandma happening to be there telling them to stop, they could use we respect old people, respect elders type of thing to back off. Really interesting. But I'm telling this story, one, because my grandma's pretty cool, she's brave, but also, don't think just because it doesn't matter what martial art you do, even if you're an MMA fighter with silat knife training and combatives training and you can shoot 20 guns, don't take on like 6-7 people, okay? Just, especially if it's like you could have just backed off. Always back off. So that's my first Bullshido story. I hope that was entertaining, man. I don't know. A lot of you reflected very positively on my previous story, so I thought I'd do one more. Because a lot of you know I used to do Kung Fu, and I had one very good teacher, and I had a second very good teacher in China. So my first teacher was in America, then I went back to China. My second Kung Fu teacher, by the way, guys, look at this. I see myself in the reflection. That's trippy, man. That's chi right there. Anyways, so I had a really good Kung Fu teacher in China, and he would always tell us these stories. He was very practical about Kung Fu, right? He knew its shortcomings and its not so good stuff. So when we started learning how to dance with weapons, again, nobody knows how to fight with weapons, right? Or we're learning dance moves with weapons. So he was telling us the story about how one kid one time forgot to separate fantasy from reality. So one of his students. And so normally before class we would stretch, right? So imagine there's like a pole. So, you'd stretch your legs on the pole and stuff like that. So the kid took a broadsword, those Chinese broadswords, and they're called dao. And I don't know why he thought it was real, and he hit the pole where you stretch, and because it's not a real sword, the sword bounced off the pole and hit him back in the head. So he went, actually, using this prop again, I really should reach out to them to get sponsored. He went, boom, like a Three Stooges thing. If you haven't seen that Three Stooges video we did, check it out here. So that's my second story. Third story was also related to this teacher. So, just because in the 90s is really when television programming started having all these mystical Kung Fu series, right? These Kung Fu masters flying. So my Kung Fu teacher told me a story about how one time a kid, I guess he just got inspired. It's kind of morbid. He got inspired by one of those television series. And he literally, our Kung Fu class was on the 7th floor, or maybe the 6th floor. High up. He flew out the window. And of course, he's not with us anymore. So, the Kung Fu teacher, the way he would teach us, we'd be doing stuff, and then he would call a few of us out that weren't good, and he'd hit us. And then the few of us that did it well, maybe he would have us go do it as an example. And then he would go into these tangents like the one I told you. Just he had a lot of fun teaching. You can tell he really enjoyed teaching. And good teachers right there. If they really can have fun. I remember I would love going to class because I would just hear stories. You tell us so many stories. And this reminded me, that incident of the kid flying out the window, that's not something that just happened once, because I remember I was reading this pretty popular book, and it was talking about a spoiled kid, and this spoiled kid apparently would just watch Kung Fu movies all day. And I guess eventually it inspired him. He thought he had what's called Qinggong. Qinggong means soft Kung Fu. Basically, you're able to walk on air. So he did the same thing. He jumped out of a 3-story or 2nd-story building. And I still remember clearly that passage. It said he went, whoa, when he jumped out of the window. And fortunately, he's still with us, but he broke both his legs. So I think that's it, man. I think those are my Bullshido stories. I feel like I should tell another one because I ended on such a kind of like a morbid note. So now, okay, I'm gonna end on this one. So when I came back to America, had a string of bad Kung Fu teachers. I should have just not done Kung Fu, but again, my parents, they didn't know better, right? They're like, oh yeah, Kung Fu, that's what he did in China. Let's keep doing Kung Fu. Anyways, so there's a move in a lot of standard kind of wushu, so the Dancefu type of kung fu you learn with the staff, where I wish I had a prop. Okay, this is going to end badly, but this is not sharp, guys. Hey, YouTube, this is not sharp, okay? This is not sharp. It's a prop, okay? Please don't demonetize me. But so, I just realized I can't even use this. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to have to... This is not sharp, guys. It's not sharp. So, I'll just use this as the sheath as the prop. So, there's a move. Imagine I had a staff, right? I might knock my laptop. So, you go like this, and then it's a pretty move because as the staff goes this way, imagine the staff is very long. So it's like a really cool horizontal motion, right? And you put your head this way to prevent your head from being hit. So it's a very impractical move. You're not gonna fight with a staff and go like this, right? Like have your head out of the way, not even look at your enemy. But it's a pretty dance move. So one of my friends was doing that one day. I guess he did it too fast. And then instead of getting his head out of the way, his head was in the way. So the staff, boom, hit him so hard in the back of his head. And those staffs are really hard, man. You can smash things with it. So I don't know how this happened, but his head was so hard it broke the staff. So we would joke. Yeah, and he had a thick skull. I don't know how he did it, man. I've seen so many people do that move, and then they don't move their head out of the way, and then they get hit in the back of the head, losing brain cells. Which reminds me, in Taolu, the forms, the katas of the Dancefu type of kung fu, there's a move where you circle your hand here, and then right, it's like a aesthetic move. There's really no... I'm assuming if you're going to try to find some kind of practical application, it's probably this is either a block or this is more like a crossface, and then you line them up to hit them, right? But the move for more dance aesthetic purposes, you're swinging your arm this way, and then you go, right? So, imagine that, all right? One of my friends one time, he was practicing this, and I don't know what happened. The coach was trying to tell him to do it quicker, right? Part of the Taolu type of kung fu is it's just quick, it's fast, right? It's really, really fast. It's beautiful and fast. So he's trying to do it quick. He's doing all these moves, and then there's a move where he's doing that, right? So he's going like this, and then he did it so fast, his fist missed his palm, so his palm smacked his face, and his fist smacked his balls. So, instead of going like this, he went poof. And the coach, to rub it in his face, would joke about it for years. Hey, remember the time you went like this and you smacked your face and hit your balls? So, I'm telling you, man. Master Ken said something funny, which is like Kempo masters. You know, Kempo, they slap themselves sometimes because there's vibrational transfer. It's a concept, right? I'm not going to devote a video now to talk about whether it's BS or not, but you could say a lot of the Kung Fu people doing the forms, if you tell them to do it quick enough, they'll beat themselves up too. So, I definitely have more stories, but until then, let's just stick to these. I think we told 5 stories. I hope you like this. If you don't, just tell me, and maybe I'll switch up the format, or I'll just not tell any more stories. But I got a lot of these stories, man. So, thank you guys so much. This was Fight Commentary Breakdowns. Bye-bye.